What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thrift here. Today we are going to be talking about the Craw class Shaden Shiru character. This is one of my new favorite classes, beating out pretty much everything else that I have tried. Started this class as a just random experiment and continued to fall in love with it, progressively making this character better and better until what I believe is one of the most broken classes in the game currently. The Shaden Shiru passive is when your hero teleports. It's -1 action point to the cost of your next spell, and Shaden does this really well. It's all about teleporting around. You have a lot of class skills and character skills that will do this teleporting feature, reducing the cost of your skills. Let's go ahead and look into some of the bonus passives you can get. The most important ones are going to be Shaden Alignment and Shaden Recovery. Shaden Alignment: when your hero teleports, you inflict 5% of your max health on opponents in line with you. And then Shaden Recovery heals inline allies 5% of your max health. So the whole class is designed around teleporting to these areas where you are going to hit enemies and heal allies. One really important thing to mention, this heal also includes you. So even as a solo player, you will be healing yourself 5% of your max health. This also means that health is the most important stat to this character. So all of your additional points will be going into health once you have purchased some important cards. Let's go ahead and take a look at the deck list here. Starting off with the fire spells, I have Biting Arrow. This card provides Archer, which is a class spell for Craw that teleports your hero to one of the closest cells on the edge of the board. This is a 0-cost teleport. It is a very vital part of this deck since it is going to be triggering all of Shaden Shiru's passives. Immolating Arrow is a very cheap fire damage card. Burning Shuriken is our first character card. Your character will teleport to a cell adjacent to an opponent and then do some damage to them, and you can combo this and do AoE explosion damage. Frozen Shuriken: you deal damage to an opponent and teleport your hero up to 2 cells away. You can combo this to heal your hero. Shorebolt: this is a very cheap combo card that adds 1 reserve action point. Stormy Bolt is another archer card. Nebulous Shuriken is one of your highest damage cards. It deals a ton of damage to an opponent adjacent to you, and if you combo this card, it will teleport your hero behind the target, triggering all of your passives. Provoking Point: it's an archer card. Divine Sky Point is a high AP cost air card, but it does AoE damage. And then Sky Point deals 47 damage, and it just gives a lot of air gauge. And then lastly, for the elemental cards, Gravelix Shuriken, which teleports your hero up to 2 cells and does inline damage to opponents. This is a great card because once you get those passives that heal and deal damage inline, you're actually dealing this damage plus the damage from those passives. So it's a really good combination. And then those character and class cards, Escape allows you to teleport your hero up to 3 cells. So that's an easy way to get some additional damage. Shaden Alienation allows you to draw 1 spell, and then this, when you combo it, gives you that archer spell. Shaden Round Trip teleports your hero up to 2 cells and inflicts 50% of your attack, and then teleports you back to your initial position. So this teleports you twice. And then Shaden Transfer inflicts your hero's attack and switches their positions. This does count as a teleport. One thing I forgot to mention, I would prioritize Shaden Alignment, and then at level 30, I would get Shaden Recovery. Okay, so for the equipment, we want to prioritize health in this build. One of your primary damage dealing ways is through these passives. Shaden Alignment doing 5% of your max health whenever you teleport and you're in line with an enemy. You're going to be able to get this off 3, 4, or even 5 times in a turn. So the more health you have, the more damage you're going to be doing. So the most important ring you have in your deck is Steel Ring. At the start of the fight, you're going to get 20% health to your hero. So here I am at level 35. That's going to put me up to about 1300 health. So I'm doing around 60 to 65 damage every time I teleport. The most important thing to this build is getting rings that also provide additional health percentage whenever you level up the ring. So Steel Ring, it's giving 20% health. It's also providing additional health whenever we level it up. Same goes for the No Prob Ring. This is a 15 deck card. At the end of your turn, you're drawing one additional spell. These cards over here, they look like they're pretty expensive, but because of the -1 action point cost of the deck, these are always turning into about 4 cost, 2 cost, 3 cost cards. You're running through this deck pretty quick, so drawing an extra card is pretty important. This is also another ring that increases health percent as you level up the ring. The third ring, Opulent Ring, this is a 12 deck card. At the start of your fight, -1 action point to the cost of the spells in your hand. It's just allowing you to combo easier. This deck is all about momentum and just doing a lot of damage really quick. You'll be surprised as to how many enemies you can wipe out in 1 to 2 turns just by jumping around. And then lastly, Jelly Ring. This is a 15 deck card that at the start of the turn, you're going to gain 1 reserve action point. Very useful. I mean, this is useful for any deck. Getting an extra AP, you don't have to use it, but if you do need it, it's available. It makes it basically a 7 AP deck. One of the reasons why this deck works so well is the armband. We're using the Marble Band. This adds the rapid repositioning card to your hand when you attack. This is a 2 AP card that teleports your hero up to 1 cell. This is another teleport that you can freely get by just attacking an enemy. And even better is the enhancement that you can put onto it, Improved Effect, to reduce the cost of that rapid repositioning to 1 AP. This is so important because when you teleport, you reduce the cost of your next spell by 1 AP. That means rapid repositioning is essentially free, and it's allowing you to deal damage, and if you are level 30, heal yourself or allies in line with you for free. Go attack an enemy, rapid reposition, and go into whatever other cards you want to. Now, when it comes to companions for this deck, there's a few staples, and then you can kind of decide what you want to do after that. The most important companion you're going to get is the Decrepit Champion. This switches the position with your hero, and you draw 1 spell. This does count as a teleport, so this is a really easy way to get another teleport out. One of my favorite companions is Shushire. At spawn, it reduces the action point cost of all your spells in hand by 1. It's another way to just chunk the cost of cards to make you have really good turns. And I've been experimenting with Kilby. I do enjoy it. It takes a while to get him out, but when Kilby comes out, he gives you 2 Ether Gauge. And why I like this setup with these previous companions and Kilby is most of the time with this character, you don't need companions. You're doing so much around the field. But if you're in those longer fights or boss fights, it is nice to bring out companions. Kilby, he attacks, he does some pretty good damage, he has some pretty good health, but he spawns with 2 Ether Gauges. And what's so nice about that is we are running a bunch of cards that give a lot of air gauge. And if you look at the rest of the cards in here, we have Shushire that has 3 air gauge, Decrepit Champion that has 3 air gauge. So by the time you're at Kilby and you have 4 fire gauge and 2 water, most of the time you're sitting at 4 or 5 air gauge. That 2 Ether Gauge basically covers the cost of the other requirement, and you're going to be able to get that air gauge for either Shushire or Decrepit Champion, either that same turn or the turn after. So Kilby, he comes out, he does his job, and then he allows you to get into these other really important cards basically the next turn. So you have essentially 2 really strong companions coming out. And then lastly, just as filler, I put in Crisscross. It has a really nice ability, stealing armor from an opponent. If you ever do encounter an enemy that does have a lot of armor, it just makes it a lot easier of a fight. You can replace him with whoever you want to, but I threw him in there. His gauges kind of suit with what we're using here in the build. I'm gonna go ahead and just show some example combat with Shaden Shiru. Your whole goal is to make things line up. You're just looking for crosses where you can hit a lot of enemies. That's your prioritized focus. Depending on your hand, you're going to be able to do teleports right away. At the start of the fight, you don't have to. But let me just show you some simple stuff you can do. I'll start with Archer. Archer allows me to teleport to the nearest cell on the outside of the grid. So if I'm already on the outside, it just lets me teleport left or right. That is going to allow me to hit one of these enemies. So I'll just quickly teleport over. And then I'm just going to use a high AP cost card just so I can start building gauge. Now I drew 2 cards. I have a lot of options for this next turn now that they're going to be getting closer to me. I see a lot of enemies lined up here, so that's going to be my first priority. I can instantly jump over with Gravlik Shuriken, so we'll just go ahead, start our turn with that. Hit these guys, do damage, and heal ourselves. The next focus that I see what I want to do, I want to make sure I do my attack. That's going to allow me to use my rapid repositioning. So we'll use that, and I'll reposition back here just to hit these two. At this point, I don't have too many options. I know that Archer is going to bring me to the closest one if I wanted to use Archer. That's going to bring me either here or here. So I could hit this enemy one more time. So we'll just hit the big guy and then Archer back over here to hit him one more time. Now, this is a turn where I can actually make some really good plays. I'm going to use Shaden Transfer to transfer him. This lines all three of them up here. And now a really fun move, I can attack him and reposition right back into that spot to hit all three again. At this point, I have 3 AP. I'm going to go ahead. We'll just do Sky Point for some more damage on the big guy. And then I'll go at, well, I won't use my reserve because I don't have any AP, so we'll just stop there. And once again, they lined up for me pretty darn well here. We're just going to go ahead and just attack the big guy some more. Just keeping an eye on HPs, right? Because if I'm hitting a lot of these guys, these are my first priority. So I'll attack here. I'll reposition back. I'll then just teleport forward to hit all three in the cross again. I'll go ahead and attack the big guy and just teleport down again to hit both of them. I'll use my AP, attack him, and just teleport right here to make sure I can finish them both off.